What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome back to yet another episode of Off the Strength, where we're giving you the inside look into all things wellness culture. I'm a trainer called Tony, and of course with me, I have a gentleman of extraordinary league. Still solo on that league side.
KR Jones is in the building. Good morning.
That's what's up. Shout out to the homie Troy and Corey. I mean, we lost one homie to sickness out there, and the other homie's taking care of family business. But fear not, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all type from near and far, you are in tune for a treat today. Now, Young Jones.
What up?
We came in on that money, power, respect vibe.
We did.
We always talk about that cut the check mentality.
CTC.
That is the company policy from day one. So I had to know, Kyle, that when I met this brother and he said that to me, we were in an informal conversation, I should say, and it was with somebody that I value and I put energy and effort into. Friend of the show, big homie Flex. Shout out to Trooper Fitness out there. We were having a conversation and this man said, you know what? Hey, I like all this brand stuff that you're doing. Did they cut the check? I automatically knew, oh, that's what you was on? Man, I know what time it is right now, Kyle.
TCB.
TCB.
CTC.
Exactly. All the alphabet stuff, man. We had to make sure that we was getting inside there. So I knew I was with somebody who was of a like mindset and who had a lot of different things that they can offer to our conversation that we like to circulate around in terms of the health of the business side of our industry. So I know that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from near and far, you are in store for a treat today. We are here with the founding partner of My Uber Life and also founding partner of Wolf University. Kyle, we got to make some noise. Miles, I need you to make some noise in there too. We got to get this round of applause going down for my man Winston Peters. Winston Peters, how you feeling today, brother?
Feeling good. Thank you.
All right. Let's jump into this, my man. Again, you know, we started talking about at the top before we turned the mics on. Having somebody validate a person that they're introducing you to is a very important thing, and it gives you that tribal bond that you kind of automatically, okay, if my man co-signs on you and he's telling me that you guys are on the same vibe, same wave, that takes me into a different position. So I really do appreciate and value your time for coming in here today, sir.
Thank you, Dad.
Righteous, man. So we like to kick this thing off a little something like this, Winston. We always have to go back into time. We need to make sure that we understand the man that we see here today has gone through a little bit of a journey. There's some peaks, there's some valleys, there was everything that's in between, and we like to jump into that story a little something like this. I want to know, where were you when you first fell in love with this thing that we call business? We're going to flip it up a little bit on that. I want to understand how you developed that psychology around the appreciation of cultural currency. Talk to me.
Well, I think when I first fell in love with business, probably elementary school. Always been hustling, trying to figure out how to elevate myself, how to get some fiscal currency, get some social currency. It all started really elementary school. It's something I got in trouble for. I'm going to date myself. I was my elementary school was around the corner from my house. So
paint that picture for me. Where are we?
We're in East Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Okay, BK, make some noise. The bias is strong on this side, my friend. I knew where it was coming from, but I had to make sure we said it so that everybody know what time it is out there.
So my elementary school was around the corner from my house, literally 2.5 minute walk. But there was this little bodega store, catty corner from the end of my block. So a lot of kids, their parents would drop them off to school or they get dropped off by the bus. My parents were like, okay, you could walk around the corner. It's not that bad. So I would go to the bodega and get sour power.
Yep.
Buy as much sour power as I could and come back to school, go to school and sell it. Double the price.
Entrepreneur.
I'm like, okay, this is scarcity. Everybody loves sour power, but no one could get it in school. You're getting your box lunch, you're getting your breakfast. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to spend my $1 to buy as much sour power so I could go into school and flip it. Each one was 5 cents. I'm going to flip it for 10 cents.
Hey.
And keep on flipping. So that was the first time I really understood supply and demand and understand what was valuable to people. So that was my first start, not really understanding, but I had a real a spark of, okay, this can be something, okay, I know I can see value and I can translate that value to other individuals.
I like that a lot. Seeing value and translating values. Now, Kyle, we legitimately were just having this conversation.
Of course.
So we were talking about Steve Stout and understanding the book, The Tanning of America, and understanding that during, I would guess, around the same transformative kind of time, that cultural currency and understanding where people are starting to have more of an affinity towards things that innately you might dislike, or because of the surroundings and the community that you're in, you have a like for, and then seeing how you can take just because this is a cool thing on the block or in the neighborhood or wherever I'm going, and then seeing how that translates to international value, seeing that value here and then translating it to some other value in the different places, legitimately the conversation that we just came off of. And I like to get into the deconstruction of that and try to understand there's a mathematic problem that's happening inside there, or there is a science to understanding why this plus this equals affinity, or this plus this equals aspiration. And I want to understand how you approach this, and I want to understand where you start to really put those things together. So you started off early in your story seeing that I can exchange something, supply and demand, seeing that if I buy the block, taking all the Sour Patches, not coming to school, everybody's looking for Sour Patches, this is where they're going to come. Okay, talk to me about the maturation of that. So very early on, did you have any kind of entrepreneurs in the family proper that you saw and you can kind of talk to about some of these ideas off of? Because this is something that came to us much later in life, and we were trying to understand how that's developed, and from very similar neighborhoods as well. You know, I wasn't in East New York or Flatbush, I was in Bed-Stuy, but everybody that I saw on the entrepreneurial side was doing something a little bit different. You know what I mean?
I like the word different.
Yeah, different.
I think for me, I didn't have anyone in my family that were entrepreneurs, but what was interesting to me, I guess my competitive advantage was that all the men on my father's side were all accountants.
Okay.
So we just all deal with numbers and deal with money.
Right.
So I knew that from a very young age of understanding the concept of money, the concept of finance. Just because my dad, he worked in the banking industry, then he worked for the IRS. So I understand, okay, you make some money, then you have to give that money to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And my uncles in the Caribbean, they worked in different organizations, different corporations. So always been around money nationally and internationally and understanding finance.
Okay, right. So now I want to understand, once you got past, let's say, the high school level and you're starting to go into the collegiate spaces and different areas where you're understanding what turning pro is, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, that wasn't truly a business just yet, right? We talked about the idea of you having a skill set, but it not necessarily translating into a business just yet. When did you start to formulate the idea of what business actually meant?
I think it really started actually before college, is actually in high school, really understanding what business actually was. I think every child, every teenager should have two types of jobs.
Okay.
In their teenage years. One, a catering job or a job of service, to understanding people. And also a job where you work on commission, because it teaches a lot of life lessons and a lot of business lessons. Like it's different from working in high school, working at Burger King versus working at, let's say, a shoe store in Kings Plaza.
Okay. Definitely.
Working on commission, you learn so many different skill sets. One, you learn about, okay, if you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah.
So that's already a differentiating factor for you. Second thing you learn is co-opetition. Whereas, okay, the people that you're working with, they're your colleagues, but they're also your competition as well. So how do I balance that relationship of, you know what, I need your help to get me this product, but I also want to beat you on the floor.
Yeah.
And it also teaches you how, looking at body language from a customer, like, okay, is this customer a buyer or is this customer a browser? Mm-hmm. Then how to close. So you learn all these different things working in a commission job that really was the start of me understanding business, even though I was just an employee. Okay. At that time.
I love that. I love that a lot. Young Jones.
Man, that takes me back to my first job, for sure. On paper, was working at McDonald's. So that was my first service job. And from then, I kind of stayed into that service industry. And eventually, I expanded into brick and mortar space, or that box gym where I had to sell. And that's when I realized, like, okay, this is different. This guy's getting more clients than me because he has a better personality, or because he looks this way, or because he's that and this. And that's when I had to really figure out, like, all right, how do I then use the knowledge that I have and portray it in a way that will make myself marketable to other people? Like, where are my real skill sets? And I think that's when that internal introspection just kind of came, and I had to then figure it out. But I definitely didn't have a book, so to speak, or guidance in that factor.
Well, it's also fascinating because you talk about that first point of commerce being commission driven, and that's where a lot of our wellness understanding comes from, right? So to be a professional in this wellness industry, you have to wear a multitude of different hats. Some of those are definitely in the physical sciences, and a lot of people take on the accuracy and the proficiencies to really be masterful in the sciences of movement, but they don't understand the sciences of business. And that's where the inception of our conversation kind of came into, where you saw a problem and you started to create a product for that problem, or you started to create a conversation around the problem that you're seeing. And that's how we got introduced to each other. Can you go a little bit into where the curiosity for wellness comes into that, and why you saw this problem as something that you should be speaking to?
Well, for me, wellness industry, the fitness industry, health and wellness, whatever you want to call it, is an industry of service. So for me, there are people who are searching for something, that are looking for something. And there are other individual, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, practitioners who are providing this service to these individuals. And being around the space, being around these practitioners, I realized that they are just providing a service, but they're working themselves to the bone and giving a service and not really giving a understanding of their business. They're thinking that, okay, if I'm making money, that I have a business. I'm like, that you not really have a business, you just have a product. And how can you turn that product into a business? Because for me and my team and my Uber Life, our whole thing is helping creators be more business minded so that they can sustain their creativity.
Okay.
If you're creating change, how can you better be well equipped to create that change?
Talk to me about the foundation of My Uber Life. What led to that, and how did that come about?
My Uber Life came from, two other founding partners, and we really saw a need for the creative community, that there was a void being not addressed. Far too often, as we spoke about before, we see a lot of creative people coming together. They want to do something cool. That cool thing actually works. It gets some momentum, becomes a movement, then that movement becomes bigger than them, and they can't sustain it because of two things. One, they didn't think of it as a business as the first thought, they thought of it as a business as an afterthought. And then one of two things usually happens. It either dissolves, or they get over-leveraged by a corporation and it gets diluted down. And for us, really understanding, like, you know what, we are tired of seeing our friends being taken advantage of, or seeing something good that they're creating not reach its full potential. So that was really just the inception of My Uber Life, to really help creatives be more business minded, because we believe that your creative DNA is your primary and your biology is your secondary. And what I mean by that is, whatever you're doing is, the cultural thing that you're doing is more important than who you actually are, because the creative community, your sexuality doesn't matter, your ethnicity doesn't matter, your race doesn't matter. None of that actually matters. Your creative DNA is your primary and your biology is your secondary. Perfect example, Prince. Prince is just Prince. You don't think of him as an African-American man from Minneapolis. He's just energy.
Yeah.
So his creative output was so much more extended than his biology.
I like that a lot. I would, welcome the change in the world that actually appreciates that worldwide, because I think that would be the first thing that'll get you closer to an equal playing field. If everybody had that kind of appreciation and that take on it, because it does go back into, well, what are you working for? I want to celebrate people for the things that they work towards and the things that they harvested and things that they had innate that they were able to refine. Kyle, how do you feel about that?
Man, I feel like that's literally the conversation we had. We keep emphasizing that because we just had this conversation, but I couldn't agree more. And I think that far too many people have the creative mind and not the business mind. And I'm from the train of thought where if you treat it like a business, then it becomes a business from day one. So from day one, even if I'm training my friends, like, these are my rates, this how much it costs, this is the process you have to go through to make this happen, or in whatever capacity it was, any input that I was given, I'm treating it as a business because in my mind it already is. And I think too many people just don't have that forethought to see where it could go, because a lot of times people often think small, or especially if you're coming from a creative aspect, it's one of those things where it is something I love and it's something that's dear to me. So I don't think of it as other people liking it or it being the product that it actually is. And I think that's where those lines kind of get mixed a little. I guess, how could you speak to getting people to have that foresight for business, like when in the creative process?
I think it starts from day one. It's think about yourself as a business and also think of yourself as a brand. And for us at My Uber Life, the first thing is we want to know why you want to do what you're doing. That's the most important thing for us, because not getting stuck on the what you're doing, get stuck on why you're actually doing, and that will impact your business. So for us, that's the first thing we actually do when we sit with any client or any prospective client, is really figure out why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do that? Because so many individuals, and I see it within the health and wellness industry, they think of themselves as just a yoga practitioner or just as a Reiki practitioner or just as a trainer. I want to understand, why do you want to actually do, what is the foundation of that thing? Business is easy. For us, every business is exactly the same, whether you are a trainer, whether you sell iPhones, or whether you sell BMWs. In its most empirical form, a business is 5 things. Number 1, creating value or solving a problem. Number 2, for someone else, not yourself. Number 3, at a price that they're willing to pay. Number 4, that meets or exceeds their expectations. Number 5, delivered and fulfilled in such a way where you make a profit. That's a business, whether you're a trainer, whether you sell iPhones or whether you sell Jordans. So for us, the business side is really easy, and yes, it is very important, but we want to understand, why do you want to do this certain thing, or why do you want to be in this certain industry? Hopefully that answers your question.
I mean, I hope the listeners taking notes, because that answered my question, but I hope they get their questions answered.
Relax and take notes, right? He gave you the 10 top 10 business commandments over on that side, man. We got that 5. Top 5. Yeah, coming into that, I totally understand and appreciate the application to where I think my first inception of it was meritocracy, where if I'm working hard, and that's the only way that I understand, I see a lineage of people working hard to get just that check and to do that thing that they were doing, but not understanding the investment system or not understanding the business value system on that side. So to be honest, and to play a little bit of that devil's advocate, if I don't know that the creative life is a profitable life, it's kind of hard for me to even understand that the thing that I might be doing innately has value to it. And it took a little while for me to understand that by the time I kept exchanging this thing that I say creativity, but it's also IP, I keep showing up and I feel like I'm fortunate to be in the room, or at least earlier versions of myself. I was just thankful to get an opportunity. Then when I come inside this room and I have an opportunity, I feel like I have to overproduce, because what was I told my whole life? Hey, when you get inside this room, people are already going to think that you started down by 10, so you got to overdo, right? And every time you overdo, but don't understand what you need to protect, don't understand why sharing some things in business conversations versus others is not necessarily advantageous to the fullest. I'm coming into this world with my arms wide open, Winston. I'm saying, look at all the cool stuff that I could do. Look at what I could come back with.
Here's my idea for free.
Here's all my ideas for free.
You remind me of this movie called the end scene of the movie Layered Cake.
Layer Cake. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're born, you take shit. Get out in the world, you take more shit. Climb a little higher, take less shit. Till one day you're up in the rarefied atmosphere and you've forgotten what shit even looks like. Welcome to the layer cake, son.
Then you go to the, as he puts it, the rarefied atmosphere where you forget what shit actually tastes like.
Yeah.
So it's understanding your value.
Exactly.
And not looking for acknowledgement from the establishment.
When did that happen for you? Talk to me about that story. When did you know what I'm doing is extremely valuable? And then what did you do to formulate and protect that once you understood that?
I think for me, it was always understood that I create value and I understand my value. So from jump, I guess from the inception of my Uber life, or even during my collegiate years, I knew I had value in a room. Again, of course, you have to unlearn certain things, unlearn the the half-truth that your parents taught you, the half-truth that teachers taught you, and the insecurities that your parents gave you. So it's really part of that was just unlearning, knowing that I had to unlearn those things. That, I guess, part of it was the turning process.
Yeah. Where did you go to college?
I went to school at Manhattan College in Riverdale, which is the northern tip of the Bronx.
Okay. Talk to me about a little bit what was going on in that day and age. What was happening? What was formative in that time?
Well, Manhattan College is very interesting because Riverdale is all this small, very affluent community in the Bronx, which is maybe right next door to Yonkers. So during the time that I was there, it was a totally different world. Coming from Brooklyn is like going to the Bronx. It was like I was going to across
You need
the country.
a passport stamp. That's what you're saying.
Well, I was going cross country, but it was a great learning experience because again, you're dealing with a whole bunch of different individuals, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, everything, and so it just put me in a space of uncomfort where I had to perform. And for me, my education, I'm a civil engineer by education.
Unpack that a little bit for me.
So ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be an engineer. That was I just knew that from jump. And I was fortunate to be in certain programs in high school. This program called the ACE Mentoring Program, which stood for Architecture, Construction, and Engineering, where they took high school kids into some of the great engineering, construction, and architecture firms of the city just to learn about the field. Because there was a shortage of engineers in the late 90s and early 2000s. So this was a program to do so. So decided to go to Manhattan College at a really good engineering program, and because I knew I wanted to be an engineer because part of my why was to make abstract things tangible, whether it be a 50-story high-rise or a new startup. So that was part of my formal education of being a civil engineer. And just the basic premise of being an engineer period is just being a problem solver. So for us, it's solving a problem. That's why you have engineers in law, engineers in tech, engineers in finance, and all different industries, because we just look to solve problems.
I love that, man. Making the abstract accessible or tangible is something that I feel is in my heart, Winston. This is one of the things. I am a multidisciplinary problem solver, and none of the things that I actually can solve problems for would I say I had the proper formal training for. But because I don't know the rules, I don't know what not to follow in a lot of different ways. So I think that some of the solutions end up being pretty people-based in the world that I circulate around, at least on the tech side. The hubris would lead you to do product-forward things first. And if you understand what I'm saying, or the listeners understand what I'm saying, just because I have new technology and I feel like I did a great job with my new technology and I made it in a room full of people that only see the world the way that I see the world, whatever my product is, if I didn't introduce it to the atmosphere or the environment in which that it was supposed to be prescribed to, that environment can reject it instantaneously. And you see that not having proper product market fit is something that people, at least in tech, they run from 0 to 60 very fast. And you'll see something have a crazy IPO and then drop immediately after, because once it actually gets into the market, it doesn't really have that fit.
But I think that's the problem right there, is that traditional ways of doing business is, you create the product first, you market the product, then you try to sell it to the individuals. And that's really the wrong way of really looking at the product market fit or how to operate in business. For us at Marriable Life, we look at it as culture first, understanding the culture you want to be a part of. Then building a platform so you can engage with that culture. And when I say culture, whether it be street culture, fitness culture, whatever the culture, subculture, crowd culture it is, build a platform so that you can communicate with them. What does that platform actually do? It helps you understand their needs, their wants, their aspirations, their desires, their pain points. Then from those things right there, then you create the product that actually answers those questions. And then market to them.
Makes a lot of sense. I definitely want to just harken back a little bit to the unlearning process, because that's something that I feel is very tangible that most people just are unaware of. And you specifically said to unlearn the half-truths that your parents and that your teachers taught you. Can you recall when you realized that moment that this was a half-truth?
100%.
I have to go get more.
100%.
Oh, this is good.
100%. I mean, my parents are, immigrants. from the Caribbean, and I'm a first generation. So being a first generation individual is, you most people learn, okay, work hard, get good grades, work hard, get a good job. Life doesn't work like that.
That's what I was taught, and we had 3 options for jobs.
Life doesn't work like that. Okay, if you know what, I could get good grades, I could get into a good school. That doesn't necessarily mean that it works linear, that I'm going to get a good job. So for me, that was one of the first things. Like, no, I'm not rather. I'm gonna work smart, not hard. I'm going to maximize my relationships. For me, just going into the education realm, it's there. Grades. What grades do? Grades give you options, but you should not over invest in grades. And when you over invest in grades, you look at everyone else in the classroom as competition, not as collaborators. And we know in the professional world, it's all about collaboration, and most likely collaborating with people you don't even like. So the quicker you learn those skills, the better off you'll be. But it all comes back stemming from, okay, if I work really hard and get good grades, then I'll be a success. And that's not necessarily the case.
Unfortunately, it is not. I mean, we spoke about that all the time. I think it takes a lot of wherewithal to realize that. And I feel so many people don't. And it's truly a shame. But we touch on these mics twice a week to hopefully
alerting this very cause, right? Because, again, that same story is true for this hyper competitive field, right? I like the word that you used. It was co-operacy and competition at the same time. What was that one more time?
Co-opetition.
Co-opetition. I knew I was going to fumble on that, so I'm glad that you had it in the tuck ready to go, because that was not going to be the one that I was going to stick the landing on. But that co-opetition, see, there we go. We got the episode title
it's
inside. It's
collaboration and competition, co-opetition.
Okay. That right there is the cure for that crabs in a barrel mentality. Realistically. And I think it comes from a scarcity mindset, right? Where if I don't have a lot, I got to hold on to every single thing that I can, and I'm going to work twice as hard, and I got to it's a feast of famine type of position. And it's already starting off with you thinking that you are in a subordinate position, realistically. And that's a mentality that is inherited, but if you start to understand, going back to that cultural currency side, where the value can be added or can be seen, and if you make that shift in your perception, you can let go of some of that stuff, and you might go far fast, but you'll go further together in that cooperacy aspect of that.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's two mindsets you can have. Either you can have the mindset of abundance, or you can have the mindset of scarcity. Mm-hmm. Understanding that there isn't one pie, there's multiple pies. And the way I look at it is, abundance is playing to win versus scarcity is just playing not to lose. Okay. You can still achieve the same end result, but it's two totally different mindsets that you're applying to both. Like playing not to lose is just looking at it like, okay, you know what? It's anxiety, it's neurotic behavior, even though you still might get the same end result, but what does that do to your body?
What do you feel?
What do you feel?
What are you going through? How enjoyable is that?
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Did you have a sports background?
Yeah, I played basketball in high school. Played basketball in Brooklyn, the Canarsie High School in Brooklyn.
Okay, right on. A lot of those base tenets, Winston, come inside of what I understood through sport, and what a lot of the people that are inside this wellness thing who come from some type of physical practice, physical background, I see a lot of those manifesting inside that at least mindset, right? Or at least when you do it the right way. Right, you get into that zen, you get into that flow. My friend over here is our resident basketball player too, so he's always going to have a little bit of
athlete, Tony. Just so you know, resident athlete.
There we go.
There's a difference.
There's a difference. I play all things.
Listen, he's got that tension. That's what I was trying to get to. He's already ready to compete before I even get the sentence out.
No, but to your point, man, and to the idea of sports, I love that it forces you to work with other people, and I think that's often a skill set that kids get at a young age, and it helps them develop and understand, like, I know I can count on this person, or I know I can count on this team atmosphere, as opposed to something like an individual sport, like a tennis, or where it's you and somebody else. But team sports build that camaraderie, I would say, just the the idea of having someone that you can depend on and trust when you're going through adversity. And I think the adversity aspect of it is what people don't face or don't realize when they're into it. And that mindset of abundance and scarcity is when that adversity comes, I'm holding on to everything that I got. Like, I'm just not going to compete, or I don't trust anybody, especially in our community. I come across people that don't trust. Originally, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. So that community is a very crab in a bucket mentality. Like, the people there are very, I got this idea, but I don't trust this dude over here because I feel like he gonna rob me.
It doesn't matter. It's all about the execution. Like,
for sure.
Give it to him again.
Ideas are a dime a dozen. Like, but can you execute on that idea? That's really what it comes down to. And if you're afraid of sharing, then you really shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Because this world is all about sharing. You at some point, you're going to have to share your idea. At some point, you're going to have to show someone how to do your thing, your quote unquote thing. So if you are afraid of doing those things, this thing isn't for you. This business isn't for you.
And success will always be kind of that thing that's elusive, realistically, or at least my definition of success and transcending success is going to be a little bit elusive. Now, you talked a little bit about when you find your element that you do good in the world and you can harvest that and you can see it's a valuable thing, the need to share inside of that. Can you talk to me a little bit about how the idea around education and the university started to develop, and take me through that process? How do you help teach this to other people, or where do you go in that?
Well, for us, the first thing is we want to know, like, what is your purpose? What is your why? Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that we care about, because our why is to help creators be more business minded, as well as help corporations be more culturally aware. And with that foundation, that means that I can do an infinite amount of what's. I can teach, I can speak, I can write, I can consult. There is no glass ceiling on the things that I can do, because my foundation is helping creatives be more business minded and helping corporations be more culturally aware. So I think that is the starting point. That was really the starting point of Wolf University, helping individuals, helping creatives, helping students find their purpose. Because, again, going back into the education, these kids are spending like $250 racks. Mm-hmm. So, and this is the issue right there. You know, as a student, now you're going to college, you're going to spend 250 racks. So automatically in school, college really is a place you're supposed to explore and discover yourself. Mm-hmm. But if I know I'm going into debt because Sally Mae wants her money, you know, I'm going to look for that 6-figure job out of college. So I'm not going to find my purpose. I'm not going to find what makes me fulfilled. So, because I'm going to have to pay back those loans 6 months after. Exactly. So you get that 6-figure job, you burn yourself out for 15, 20, 30 years. Then you're like, you know what? Now I want to be fulfilled. Now I want to, you know, be a yoga teacher. I want to do no shade.
No, I'm laughing only because that is so true. There's no offense taken to it. It's like, wow, I know that story. I've heard that story. I've lived that story.
How many finance people you know made the 6 figures, made the 7 figures, like, you know what, burnt out, you know what, now I want to be in health and wellness.
That's nearly everybody who's starting to open up in the boutique side. Like, that's not hyperbole. Everybody who is experiencing the fragmentation of wellness right now, where there is specificity on the type of treatment and the granular layer of which you're going through, that's not innovation coming from inside the house. That's coming from outside in. People who had an affinity for it and saw that, you know, all these wellness people are doing something interesting, but they don't have the business mindset to it, and it doesn't really have the same growth potential into that. That got injected about 10 years ago, and you can see the fruits of that. It's not so coincidental, at least to me, that we hit the crash in 2007, 2008. And then the years after that, after I know a lot of people that I used to work for are leaving Goldman, are leaving Lehman, and they're going in and saying, you know what? I got some extra cash around. I see this white box studio inside here. I could throw a couple bikes in here and I could figure something out. That's legitimately what the last decade was in that expanse and growth inside that conversation. So I'm laughing because I know those people and I've talked to them, and I am a product of that same system, you know, so it's fascinating to me.
No, but you know, I'm sorry to go off tangent, but again, going the whole education part was, you know, we want to get to these students, get to these young professionals early.
Yes.
So that they can figure out what their purpose and what they want to do. Because whether you are an entrepreneur or you going corporate, there's risk in both. Mm-hmm. We see that, if you don't work, you don't eat if you're an entrepreneur, or you can end up like a Bear Stearns or a WeWork having no 401k.
Yeah.
So, but what we want to teach is where will you be most fulfilled?
Right.
And what does that actually look like? And what does that business around that fulfillment actually look like? And how are you able to sustain that thing, that purpose, that why?
And that leads us to the why, at least I believe, one of the whys in which we came here today and came about that idea of fulfillment, and it not necessarily being just the one-to-one or linear kind of relationship. We talked about fulfillment in this wellness sector. Now, I've been a long proponent of the idea that health is not necessarily a byproduct of the wellness industry. Feeling good is not necessarily a byproduct of the wellness industry.
Not at all.
Right? There is a turnkey service where I can get your dollar in, monetize the price per square foot as high as I possibly can, and let you go right back out. If you get healthy, I'm okay with that. And that's by and large most of how the businesses are running. I don't know if they're making the investment into here's how I'm going to try to make this palpable change. There are a handful that do, but I'd say the larger conversation is not based around, am I making my product? My product isn't health. It's something different from that.
But that's the funny thing. A lot of these practitioners, wellness people, fitness people don't even know that.
That's my point.
They don't even know that, yes, I'm coming to your gym, to your boutique, to your yoga studio for a physical activity, or for a tangible activity, but what they're really there are for an off-core benefit or a psychological benefit or an emotional benefit. A lot of these practitioners, they don't even know what their emotional, psychological benefit that they're giving to their customers or to their clients.
Right. And this is why we need to speak about this as loudly and as frequently as possible as we start to go into these different explorations. And now let's talk about what's the aspirational component inside there. And let's talk about what it is that you want to do in that business portion of the wellness industry, because I am a serial entrepreneur in that space. And I know that we come in here, we see an ill, we see a symptom that is something that we believe that we can take advantage of in the best sense, but then also cure that, right? So our why starts with, we want to radically reshape the world one body and mind at a time. And we know that this vernacular that we speak in is gold out here in these streets. We understand that if it sounds and it has this syncopation, it has this beat, that's the way I understand the world. So if I can make you understand health through the way that I understand the world, maybe that's a valuable thing. And maybe that can actually nudge you into making better incremental decisions and make you feel a little bit different. We want to give you that off the strength. We want to give it to you, not just because we want to get something out of it, but I want to heal the people that I care about the most. And if you're listening to this anyway, I might as well put some of that medicine inside this candy and give you a little bit something different, right? That's our why. Now, extending that into, okay, there's also a lot of, not just the people that I want to hear that, there's a lot of healthy people that need to hear that information that are not healthy in terms of what this business goes into.
Like I said, beware of the unhealed healer.
Exactly. Let's get into that, my friend. We got to go through this. I want to understand what you see in this chasm and what you're hopeful that you can help fix inside that position, or where you want to go inside that exploration, how we come about.
Well, for me, I'm coming from a different lens. So I'm able to look outside in and look at the wellness and fitness industry, and just looking at it from a business standpoint. You're looking at a lot of trainers are one-trick ponies. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean, like, if they don't train, they're not making any money. Mm-hmm. So for them, they have to run around to make as much money as possible, which is just unhealthy. And then there's some individuals like, okay, you know what? I'm tired of running around to all these different clients. Hopefully I could get all these clients to come to one location. Or then I still need more clients to come to this one location. So now I'm spending more hours in this one box and not really taking care of myself. Then you have the individuals this is from what I'm seeing, that are trying their best to be perfect, and they can't. They're masking all of their insecurities with this allure of perfection. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is being aware of the unhealed healer, and as some trainers and some individuals or some practitioners, they understand that the people that are coming to them are insecure themselves and looking for something, yearning for community, yearning for trying to solve some type of problem that stems from their childhood.
Yeah.
So now there's two toxic relationships in one room.
Exactly.
That right there alleviates growth. Alleviates what's actually supposed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So then how do we move forward from there? So I think it's a call for these, practitioners, trainers, whatever field that you're in, to heal themselves before they're looking to heal other people.
I think we need to light some incense on that.
It's going to be some finger snaps. It's going to be all of that.
Something needs to happen after that, but that's accurate. So accurate. I mean, we literally just spoke about that, and people not taking the time to retroactively fix what they have to fix, right? Like, you need to take that introspective look to just be like, I'm not coming from a place of health. I'm not coming from a place of wellness. So how can I then sell that to you? But my livelihood is dependent upon this. And back to that point of view where people just don't think further. Like, there's only so much you can do with your body if you are a trainer.
But here's the thing. It stems even further back. Like, what is your why? Do you really have to be a trainer? Like, what is the purpose that you're really looking to do? Like, if let's say your why is to help individuals, be their best selves in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you have to be a trainer. That could be one part of it, like your physical self. But okay, what about your spiritual self? What about your mental self? So a trainer can be, a life coach. A trainer can be multiple different things. So it's really understanding your why first before getting into being stuck on selling this work.
Yeah. I think one of those things that I just want to say again, where I see the parallels of that mirroring happening, we do these intakes, or I would say a good trainer should do a really good evaluation, just like a good doctor should do a really good evaluation. When you're getting into that 5th or 6th or 7th round of why, you start to run into some places where people are going to have conflict and where they're going to bang their heads against, here's the thing that you said you wanted, but then here's the work that you did and here's the result that you got. And this is why we are in this position right here.
But here's the interesting thing. When I say why, people could have a superficial why.
Right.
People could have an altruistic why. But you just have to be honest about what that why is. Is that why to prove, the people from your high school wrong that you can make it, or to prove your parents wrong? That's a superficial why. And that's a true or real why. But
it's still valid.
It's still a valid why, but there's a cap.
Have you ever had any kind of confrontation with that where you're saying, this is what I objectively observe for any of the potential clients that you had, and you showed them their reality and they just didn't really accept it?
There was definitely some resistance to taking it, but they actually understood, like, okay, wow, this is really what I'm really trying to do. This is why I want to build this project.
Mm-hmm.
And once they get to that realization and like, okay, I need to be something more altruistic, because once I hit that cap, people are going to fall off.
Mm-hmm.
We see it all the time. Like, why did this celebrity just fall off? They probably have a superficial why. And okay, why not keep on going? That's the difference between a superficial why and an altruistic why. Altruistic purpose is about someone else, about the world, doing something bigger than you.
I like that a lot. All right, so now I'm going to take this why on for a second, because I feel like we already talked about why we were here as this off the strength thing, why we were doing this kind of conversation to the healers, trying to have these more in-depth and exploratory conversations. It's not just about a bunch of pushing and pulling and what you're lifting, but the why behind what moves you is the conversation that we keep circulating around. And we really are, I think, artists in this movement idiom. And as artists, I want to keep elevating this conversation. I want to take a $4.2 trillion industry and turn it into something that actually has comprehensive storytelling, has layering, has things that mirror a lot of the other consumption-based products out there, like the music industry, like the sports industry. I see a lot of those tenets being true here too, but they're just not fully explored. We're really in the infancy of the development of what people really are going to appreciate for wellness, for very many of the reasons that you already laid out. It doesn't just tie into what it is I'm doing. There's a whole psychological background that ties into the acts in which you're engaging in, the clothing that you're wearing, all the rest of that kind of stuff, rich tapestry of stuff. So my why is to really come up with the best possible story that I can tell inside there. I happen to have an affinity for getting together with people who are also in that leadership role, breaking this thing down a little bit and saying, we can do this a lot better if we did this together. So now, Winston, I came across you in that same space because that's how I talk to Flex. Listen, I understand what you're doing. I see you here. Let's be more efficient from here, here, and here. Okay, cool. Yeah, that actually worked. That's a thing that I just do just because that's how I look at the world. And I can see these problems and I can see these things that are not fitting together. Here's the gap. Let's exploit this gap and let's figure out that opportunity. That's what my mind is constantly doing. I couldn't turn that off if I actually wanted to. I see a gap here. I see that there is a need for more people who come from this same sweatpants lifestyle, doing this all day, moving around, to have this information at a very high level and to hear that and to be able to go to workshops and to be able to go to the educational portal to find this. How do we get you to be a person that talks inside this space a little bit more?
I mean, it just have me on the show.
That's exactly it.
Have me on the show more.
That's a why.
Have me on the show more, and I think it's really expanding the conversation. It's like you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot of copy and paste in the fitness and wellness industry. So I think it's really just being honest and having these conversations more to really just educate the community that they are in business, and that they just don't provide a service, and helping them really understand what a business actually is, what a brand actually is, how to create, passive revenue. What does that actually look like for them? Do they have, what is their IP? Creating a common language for the fitness and wellness industry so that they can, when they go into rooms with brands or with higher ups, they know what they're talking about.
Creating a common language. I can get down with that.
Winston, man, you dropped so many gems. My final question to you would just be, what does success look like to you ultimately?
Success to me is flexibility. And for me, flexibility is the new luxury. The ability to do what you want to do when you want to do it. That is success. Money is just a tool to do other things. But for me, the flexibility to be with, my mother at 12 noon, that's success. Flexibility to go to the gym at 5 or 6 in the morning for my own meditation, that's success. For me to be on a podcast on a Friday morning at 11 a.m., that's success, and not worry about my clients. That flexibility to me is success. To be able to travel to the Midwest and work still is going on. That's success.
I'm here for that, man. And again, we have a lot that we're trying to take on this plate coming into 2020. Conferences, panels, all the rest of those different things in which this conversation has to be elevated, has to be packaged, and has to be turned into an actual business. And I'm here for that exploration. And I definitely appreciate that. And I have to ask our version of our why question that we like to ask our people. So, Winston, you shared in the same space where Kyle was talking about so much throughout this hour, where you're talking into the health of just business practices in general. I want to understand your why for getting up in the morning, your why for wanting to take this on and wanting to be passionate about this exploration. What's the thing that you do without any kind of attachment to it in terms of external value? What's the thing that you do off the strength that intrinsically motivates you to keep going forward?
Something that I do off the strength is cook for my family every Sunday. It's something that my father did for decades. He passed away last year, October. He cooked Sunday dinner for my family every Sunday, and just keeping that tradition alive. That's something so that my mom, my sister, my partner can experience my dad through me.
And you talk about fulfillment. That's real fulfillment right there. Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that, my friend. My condolences to that. but I understand how important ritualism plays a role in that fulfillment, and I understand where that helps us go into that legacy conversation, because every time you do get to break that bread, every time you do get to share that space and that time and that effort, those memories stay on forever.
Facts.
And those are the things that, you know what, this whole purpose in life, that's what I want to live towards. That's what I want to work towards. So really do thank you for everything that you shared in that. And that sentiment exactly is what we do this for. So whenever we have a chance, my friend, I want to break some bread with you too. I want to keep these conversations going. I want to grow with you, my man.
Likewise.
Let's go ahead and take this world on. I'm ready to shake it up, my man.
Let's do it.
Off the strength.
Off the strength. We got to do it like that, big homie. Winston, you got to let these good people know where they could find you, how they could stay in contact with what you guys are doing. And again, this is the first time you're hearing him, but it ain't going to be the last time, folks. We got to make sure that we keep these conversations going, my man.
Well, you can look at my company, My Uber Life Consulting. We're on Instagram, MYUBERLIFE. You can find me on Instagram as well, is WinceP_MUL, WINCEP_MUL. Find me on the IG.
Hell yeah. Make sure you're getting at them. Like, listen, and subscribe. Young Jones, you got anything else on that, brother?
Nah, man, my heart's full. I'm ready.
There we go. We feeling fulfilled. We got a mission statement. We're going to get out here and we're going to get this thing going once again.
Do it.
It's been another fantastic episode of Off the Strength. I'm a trainer called Tony.
KR Jones.
Peace to the homies Corey and Troy. Shout out to y'all out there. Peace and much love to everybody. We'll see you soon.